What time is it? It's 2:30 in the afternoon. Let's see something. Alrighty. What's up, brother Ron? Hopefully you can hear me, because of course I don't know if the microphone is working the way it's supposed to be. But as always, blessings to you, brother Ron. Blessings, blessings, blessings. And as always, hopefully everything is well with you and the family on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Should I give you a purr to that 13 cents, or shall I actually send $1.30 to you? Cool, cool, cool. Appreciate that one. We appreciate that one. You know, asking for 13 cents, you might get mad at me after I send you a photo of what I recently paid for gasoline. you, you might get even more mad at me. But on a serious note, I'm gonna send you a text message just later on this evening, because this is a program that I believe that you may benefit from it more than I do, because I believe you do a lot more driving than I do, so it might benefit you a whole lot more. Just to give you a quick heads up, I paid $1.94 yesterday for gasoline. So I guess you could be mad at me for the rest of the week. And no, I didn't do an ant. I didn't ask for $3 and get any bags or anything put on the side. It was actually just straight $24. Yeah, the $1.93, the $1.94 if you round it off. But I haven't seen prices that low in a very, very, very long time. And I got to send you how I found it. And you might be, like I said, for you it might be a little bit better. But with that being said, today is Saturday, of course, and it's a wonderful afternoon, 2:37, October 4th, on the yeah, I kind of figured you'd be mad if you're paying $3.75 per gallon. Yeah, I think I paid $1.75 less than that if we round it off an even number. So yeah, you should be mad. You should be mad. But I'll send it to you because I know you do a lot of, you're on the road more often than I do, so it actually might benefit you a little bit more. Today's Saturday, as I mentioned. Hopefully everybody's well, and it's a beautiful Saturday afternoon. I figured I'll sit closer to the tree line and prevent the battery from getting burnt out from the sunlight. As like the last time I got burnt out because of sunlight. So basically, I'm gonna sit here by the tree line at the backyard. Yeah, the orange fence is to keep the the animals from that side coming in messing around with my dogs or my fur babies. I like to say that's what that's up for. And sometimes the fur babies will try to go over it and or under it, but on the other side is a little more sturdiness, so they don't go far. But the reason I came on today, of course, is the FATATCHULA show. The FATATCHULA show is always about reaction videos and bringing humor to people's lives, and sometimes allowing people to come in with some smoke and or smoke as well to be handed out. Robinhood do give me 2% back. Well, Ron, if I do calculations correctly, at 2%, you're talking about maybe 45 cents you got back from 375 fill up. And that still doesn't equate to much, even as I believe you have stock and getting dividends from the gas station you're going to. At an overall, I want to say you're just shy of maybe 50 cents, 60 cents of breaking even with your dividends and or Robinhood 2%. Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, your time frame. We're here on the East Coast for 2:30 in the afternoon on the FATATCHULA show, and always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for swinging on by. And this afternoon scheduled unscheduled programming is just to come out there and talk to the people about the FATATCHULA show. And of course, because I got some funny ass comments, and I do say just like that, I got funny ass comments the other day in the chat room with a couple of other videos that I made reactions on. So some people find it humorous, and a lot of people feel the need to try to turn around and say that I don't know what I'm talking about. So of course, that's always a question when they start talking that nonsense, and of course, I got to put them out. Like Ron does. Ron lets the smoke come in, but I'm gonna hit them with receipts left and right so I can smack them left, smack them right, and hopefully smack some senses to them by the time they get off. Because we all know 30 seconds. Most people only have 30 seconds of brain capacity. So anything over 30 seconds, I got to make sure I explain in 30 seconds. But today's show is not going to be that way. Today's show is really it's really a lengthy one. And it hits kind of close to, it doesn't hit close to home. It just want to give some insight on how some people are actually talking nonsense on social media about the government shutdown. Now, here at the FATATCHULA show, we talk about almost everything, right? And related, family related, socially related, or even if it's something that has to be spoken about, it will be spoken about. I'm doing today. And as a business owner, it affects me as well when people talking nonsense. We're about to come into a time frame where businesses are looking for people to spend more money than ever. Usually I can tell you right now, anybody who disagrees with me has got to be completely out of the ballpark when they talk about they know what the hell's going on in life. Many people buy Christmas gifts in November, usually right after Good Friday. Not Good Friday, Black Friday. On Black Friday, they go crazy buying gifts for December. In October, most people are getting ready for November. Hence the reason why the Halloween and all these other things they tend to do. Dia de los Muertos in Mexico, of course, is also in October. And when we go further into the year of months, we're talking April, May, and June. April, May is proms, weddings, graduations, buying gifts for that. January is usually returning of gifts, but then February is when you're buying gifts all over again. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because a lot of people are complaining about what's happening with the government shutdown. Now, if the government shutdown is affecting you personally, it's a problem because it shouldn't affect you personally because you're not the only one that's actually being affected. Yet, the reason why I say that is because people are talking about how some people actually are losing their Social Security. Some people are talking about how they can't use their benefits from the government. And how many Democrats, as Ron would say, Democrats are just a bunch of criminals. And I have to kind of agree with that. And of course, there are some Republicans now that are just as bad. Because I did read into the 5371, I believe is what it's called, which is the new bill that they're arguing over. And let's understand something. This is not the first time the government ever shut down. So for people to be complaining about the government shutdown, it's safe to say that they're complaining because they want to make noise. It's not the first time. If you're above the age of 18, you've been affected by a government shutdown at least 3 times in your lifespan. So this one now should not be of a shock to anyone. Yet I could understand why some may feel it's a shock because they weren't prepared. And of course, it's the same way when you have an accident. You're not prepared for the accident. That's why the insurance companies always tell you it's if you get into an accident. We may, which means may or may not, 50-50, pay for the accident. That's pretty much the same thing that's happening with the government shutdown. Government shutdown, not the biggest fan of public benefits. Yes, Joyce, I appreciate that one. Yes, I agree with you on that one. Because of course, everybody needs a helping. That's true. The point of abusing it is where it becomes a problem. Now, I've read, as I mentioned, I've read the document and I see what both sides are arguing about. And the simplest thing I could say is this. If you own a home, or matter of fact, even if you're renting a home or an apartment, do you find it feasible that you're paying the bills that belong to someone else? That's really the question. If you feel comfortable enough to pay the bills for someone else, I got a bunch of stray dogs behind me. I can hear them yelping. And of course, they're afraid to come this way because they know they're going to get chewed out by mine. And if you're willing to pay the bill that's providing the electricity in your home or your apartment from somebody else's name, or to make it even worse, you're paying the back bill, meaning you're paying, let's just throw a number out there, you're paying $2,000 back to the public service, or matter of fact, the energy company that's providing the electricity to your home or your apartment. There's a $2,000 bill that you have to pay for because it's in somebody else's name. So just ask yourself, are you okay with that? If the answer to that is no, you're not okay with it, then you should not be screaming about why the government is shut down. Okay? That's first and foremost. Secondly, if you have a cell phone, I don't care what it is, whether it's Android, whether it's iOS, or whatever the case may be. I'm sure that there's several times throughout the year that cell phone shuts down on you and reboots itself. And the reason why it does that is because it needs to reset itself. It needs to put new programs in there, more codes, more protection, whatever the case may be. So the government has to do the same thing. Now, on top of the government shutting down, there's another particular reason for it to shut down, because many people tell me, oh, well, it's affecting Medicaid and illegal immigrants need to have that protection for the medical benefits for themselves because they're here as well. Okay. So here's the funny thing. Some of you out there who are either A, self-employed, B, business owners, would understand this concept real well. If you're a business owner or you're self-employed, what I mean by self-employed is that you make your own money, whether you deliver food through any app, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Instacart, all those things. You do deliveries, same thing, through any app. You're considered a 1099 self-employed, indirect business owner, right? You have to provide your own insurance for your own self, your health insurance. So you're paying a lot of money to get health insurance. So you can't get health insurance through the government because they find out that you have earned wages, they would disqualify you. So ask yourself this question. If you're paying more money in taxes because you're a 1099 self-employed business proprietor, which means you have your own business, you work for yourself, you earn your own money, no one pays you because you work on your own. Is it fair that 25% of that money always goes to someone who is in the United States illegally and is not considered a U.S. citizen? So ask yourself that question, because I know for many, many years, many people were angry that FICO was taking so much money out of their paychecks. So when you go back to how if FICO was taking so much money back in the day out of people's paychecks, why aren't those same people and or new people screaming and hollering because they want to take additional money out of your paycheck, out of your insurance, whether it's for your Social Security, whether it's for your unemployment, whether it's for your own medical benefits? Take a portion of that money and give it to someone who's not here in the United States illegally. Now, ask yourself those questions because, of course, as I say all the time, many people will disagree with me. Many people will not understand what I'm talking about. This is why I got to put it in very simple terms, almost idiot terminology, so you get an understanding. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm trying to have people understand what's happening around the government and why certain things have to transpire when it comes to finances. So when we look at the concept of how people scream and hollered about illegal aliens, illegal immigrants, not having Medicaid coverage, ask yourself this question real simplified. The person who lives next to you, if you're in an apartment building, the person who lives next to you, the person who lives to your right or the left, above you and below you, is it necessary that you paying for their health coverage or you're paying more money into your health coverage and you're only seeing the doctor maybe 3 or 4 times out of the year, but you're paying almost $20,000 towards that? So right, you may not have that. You're right. And is it fair that you have to pay for that? So if you sit back and you say to yourself, well, yeah, that does kind of make sense because someone else is getting health coverage and you can't even afford your own health coverage. Your medication, if you do have to take some, is costing you more money because you have to pay out of pocket for it. Yet someone else is getting it for free because your tax money is paying for it. Does it make sense? Just ask yourself those questions. Ask yourself those questions. Because sometimes people want to scream and holler without asking themselves the right questions. And this is why in various movies there was always a scene where the person would say, "You're asking the wrong questions," but yet they're asking questions, and the other person that's receiving the question says, "You're asking the wrong questions," which means they cannot answer the question. Matter of fact, it's Jumanji. Jumanji is the famous movie that I'm talking about. In Jumanji, there was always asking the one character a question, and the character would turn around and say, "You're asking the wrong question," because there's certain questions that have to be asked. So I'm putting it out there so you folks can get an understanding. And yeah, a lot of you don't like my show. I get it. A lot of people don't like me. I get that too. And like I told somebody yesterday, you don't have to like me, but you cannot ever in your entire life say that no one told you. Because if I sat in front of you for 25 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 hours, whatever the case may be, and told you, you cannot ever in your entire life say that no one ever told you, because I told you. And if you choose not to listen, it's because you choose not to listen, and you choose to go in the wrong direction, and you choose to argue something that's already been answered the right way. So I think Medicaid should be for pay thing for people who are self-employed or retired, and we should not get horrible rates. You know, Joyce, you are very close. I mean very close to the reasoning why the Medicare health reform is in play now, because of course that's what they're fighting, and they're fighting it because here's the funny thing. I'm retired, okay, and as being retired, I should not be paying, and I kid you not, I'm gonna tell you right now, I should not be paying $2,400 a year just for coverage, and I only go to the doctor twice a year. It's not right that I have to pay $2,400 a year to see the doctor twice. Now, I know there's some of you out there that are paying way more than I am. Yet, that is because I've had mostly businesses all my life and some points of employment. So They have to factor in both parts of that, right? So Ron also says illegal immigrants shouldn't be getting nothing but sent back to their country. Well, Ron, I love you as a brother, and I tell you this all the time. Certain things are true and certain things are not true. Now, here's where I'm going to agree with you. I agree with you cold-heartedly. They should be sent back, especially if they came here once before or twice before on work visas and they have expired. Or they crossed the border illegally, meaning they did not register when they came in, and they stood here and they've been working for X amount of years paying taxes. They should get not deported back to the country, yet they should have a heavier penalties to pay back, which ultimately would lead to them getting sent back to where they came from. Unfortunately, what's happening is that in this country, in the United States, under the Biden administration, and of course under the Obama administration, there was a point where the United States was considered a sanctuary country, not a sanctuary state. And the reason why I say that is because everybody from anywhere was coming and saying, well, I'm afraid for my life. You know, this cartel, that gang, this company, this war drone area, all those reasonings allowed many people to come into the United States undocumented. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do, and I kid you not, all you have to do is take one day and you're bored and you're not sure what to watch on TV, pull up a program called Border Crossings. Okay, I watched it. I binged it on Netflix. It was a great program, and it specifically spoke about how border agents were telling people that were coming across the border for various reasons how to stay in the country illegally. And what I mean by that is because if you just get a piece of paper and you have the person sign it and tell them that they got to come back to court, and then 30 days later they don't go back to court, that's pretty much what you're doing, is you're allowing them to stay with the belief that they're going to follow through the correct way, which leads me into the next topic of this afternoon's talk. So if you come into the country illegally, I believe that the country should put an ankle monitor on you. This is what I believe. If they put an ankle monitor on you, or even a GPS tracker, they have GPS trackers that can go under your skin because they do it for dogs. So if you're an illegal immigrant and you come into the United States, the moment you come in and you're required to go to court in 30 days, you should be chipped, just like a pet, just like an animal, okay? Or have an ankle monitor on so that you are forced to come into court and represent yourself on why you need to be in the United States. This way, if the United States is paying you to live here for free, meaning they're giving you the resources, they're feeding you, they're giving you room and board, they're paying your electricity, they're paying your water bill, they're allowing you to get free medical coverage. If all that is being done by the taxpayers' money, why not find a way to track them so when it's time to collect, we don't have to go hunting underneath the rocks? That's the easiest way to do it. Now, it may sound inhumane to put a tracker on a human being. Yet, when you're throwing away, just for a quick number, there's no proof behind this number, I'm just going over how I calculated certain things. If a woman is averaging approximately $3,000 a month because she has one or two children, I'm gonna say or two children, she's getting $3,000 a month, that's $36,000 for the year. So she's almost getting more money than a person who's working at a McDonald's or a fast food restaurant, already off the door. On top of that, she's getting free health care, free medical coverage, free medicine coverage. So you're roughly looking about $60,000 for a woman with two children. Now, if she has a man in the house with her and they claim to be married, not here in the United States, because they can't be married legally in the United States if they're both illegal, so they're inside the house. But they make believe that somehow, some way that the person needs to get benefits. Now you're looking about $75,000, maybe $85,000 a year for this family. Can any of you turn around and tell me that you're able to throw away $85,000 a year when you're not even making it? That's how simple it gets. So you got to ask yourself that question. So now we go on to understanding what this is all about. When you have to pay for medical, and the reason why I'm stuck on medical coverage is because Medicaid is what the whole focus is on. Democrats want $1 trillion to cover the what is it called? The Biden Obama care. This is what they want. They want President Trump to sign off on $1 trillion to cover Obama Biden care. The reason why it's Obama Biden care is because Obama introduced it, Biden ran with it. So now both of them want Trump to do the same thing. Trump is saying, no, I have my own name. Why do I have to pay for your name? Which went back to what I was saying in the very beginning. Does it make sense that you're paying the debt of the previous renter of your apartment or the previous homeowner of your home? Their debt, you're paying for it? Does that make sense? I'm sure none of you would agree to that. And I gotta pause for 30 seconds because there's an anthill underneath me and they're crawling up my chair. So I gotta scoot over because it's kind of hard to kill a million ants at one time. Damn it. So, my apologies for that. That's why sometimes it's best to sit inside a makeshift office or some guys have man caves, some women have she shacks or she sheds. So, that's what it's all about. Yeah, we got to abandon ship. We had to do that real quick here. Let me just get the camera a little closer because some of y'all might want to see my facial expressions. I don't know why, because I'm not making any funny facial expressions, but I'm going to put it like this. So what tends to happen is this, we have to understand that as taxpayers, we cannot afford to cover someone else's debt. Many of you that are married legally could understand this. Or maybe, matter of fact, not even married. Maybe you're single, was married at the time, as a female, as a husband, former husband, so male, female, that have children. You have this wonderful thing that's called child tax credit. And the reason why you get that child tax credit is because you have a child. That's why they ask if you have an eligible or a eligible taxing individual that you need to care for. Because even if you're caring for a person in your home, you can add that person to your taxes, and you can become the caretaker of that person. And of course, when you do that, you need their social security number in order to provide validity behind what you're doing. Some people appreciate that, some people don't. Now, coming back to the taxpayer, if the taxpayer is paying a person that has children in their home, is an able body that they can go out and work, because that's the other thing now. If you have a car, there should be no reason why you are on welfare, Medicaid, because you make more than enough money to find a job to pay for your own health insurance benefits. But the reason why you don't do that is because you turn around and say, well, no, I'm not able to work because I do not have the capacity to work and I'm not an able body. But you don't want to go through the vetting system to actually be given those benefits. So that's a problem. Now, it may sound like I'm jumping around this because there's a lot of information that many of you have thrown at me, or statements, and your information is incorrect because of how you presented it. So let's understand something. First and foremost, President Trump should not be paying for a debt that he did not create. The same way you, as the individual, would not pay a debt that you did not create. Whether it's in your home, whether it's your car, whether it's your own insurance policy, you yourself would not pay the debt of the previous owner or persons owning or renting from where you rent or own. It's a fact. So Trump doesn't want to do the same thing. So when you turn around and say there's $1 trillion for undocumented individuals inside the US, go get those individuals and put trackers on them. Put a GPS system on them. Watch how fast they would find a way to work. And the reason why I'm saying that is this. Someone turned around and said to me, I don't like migrants, or I don't like immigrants. And I had to explain to them, it's not the point about being an immigrant, because you could be an immigrant here in the United States for 3 months and get deported. That's valid because you didn't follow the process. You here in the United States for 25 years working, there used to be a clause that allowed you to stay in the United States because you was paying taxes. Yet, that's where the ball was dropped, because after a certain period of time, that person has to be vetted again. And if not being vetted, that means they're abusing the system somehow, some way or another way that is making things uncomfortable. Welcome a world away from here. Welcome, welcome. Glad you can join us on this FATATCHULA Saturday. I'm glad you was able to step in, and hopefully you understand the content for this afternoon. And hopefully it doesn't affect you directly. We're talking about the government shutdown and why it had to be that way. As I had mentioned before, a lot of people tend to have this, Android phones and iOS phones that shut off and shut back on its own. It's called a reboot. The government right now is doing a reboot because they have to figure out, or rather, President Trump has told the administration, we have to figure out where all the money is going. We already stopped a lot of the money being spent. Now let's fine tune it to figure out where the money is going and why the money is going there. Because again, I come back and I repeat it again. If you yourself are comfortable by paying someone else's debt where you live, where you own your home, where you rent your apartment, even the car you own that you claim to own because you're paying the bank, paying the same debt that the previous person had. If you're comfortable with that, then there's no reason why you should be angry. If you're not comfortable with that, then you should be just as happy as I am, as President Trump is telling the cabinet and telling the Senate, we're not paying any more money. And of course, the Senate turns around and Democrats turn around and say, you know what? You don't want to pay the money. We're going to shut this place down. Shut it down. You're not hurting me. Because at the end of the day, you're going to realize that the people that you're hurting are going to come to their common sense and realize what I'm talking about makes sense. Versus you guys keep telling them the wrong thing. Okay? Now, we've heard Brother Ron talk about how Democrats are constantly doing things the wrong way. We've heard many other people talk about how Democrats keep doing things the wrong way. Ask yourself this simplified question. If you're seeing more money in your paycheck, that is because President Trump kept his promise. If your benefits that you're gaining from social services has increased and or has regulated, you should be happy, because now they understand why you need it. Because sometimes you can need it and they're going to give it to you. Most of the time, there are people who deserve it and need it and can't get it because other people have abused it. And that's where the problem lies. So when we talk about Medicaid, we talk about Medicare, we're talking about health insurance being given to illegal immigrants. Let's understand something. If the person is here, just like in your own house, look, some of you have the understanding of, if your children get of a certain age, they are to get out the house and fend for themselves and take care of their own families. Professors get grants to discover drugs. If it's everyone gets rich except for the taxpayer, who then pays a big premium to get it. Well, Joyce, that is a very, very interesting statement. That statement can be read 3 different ways, okay? And I appreciate it. And the reason why I appreciate this statement is because if we look at the statement the way I would look at it, professors get grants to discover drugs. If it hits everyone gets rich except the taxpayer, who then pays the big premium to get it? And I'm going to chop it up like this. The taxpayer is paying the big premium. The big premium is what becomes the grant for the professor to seek and try to discover a new drug. And the reason why I say try and discover is because the drug has already been discovered. You cannot come, okay, this is a funny joke. How do you come to America and discover when there was already people here? How do you discover something where it was already at? So the drug was already here, it's just how it's made by someone else. Let's not forget, that's why it's called copywriting. Because people, especially people, yeah, thank you, Joyce, appreciate that one. Yes, I definitely appreciate that statement. And I really, really appreciate it. That was very well put, absolutely very well put. I enjoyed it very, very much. Thank you. And it's amazing how, if you realize, my favorite movie is Patch Adams with Adams, and I read the book, and it spoke volume if you understood the concept. You're not considered a doctor by putting a cold compress on your because they're running a fever. You're not considered a doctor because you're giving that person that has a fever some soup. You're not considered a doctor. So when you look at these pharmaceutical companies, as going back to what Joyce had mentioned there, when you're discovering a drug, are you really discovering a drug, or are you overpaying someone else to do the same research that they did several years ago? You're not creating or discovering it, you're vetting it. That's what you're doing now. They're vetting the drugs. Because the only time, and again, most of you don't want to catch on to this, and most of you are going to be angry at me. I'm telling you now, time now is 3:11 p.m. That's 3:11 p.m. on the Eastern Standard Time. Many of you are going to get sick again because of the so-called coronavirus. It's going to be called something different. Because many of you heard several months ago how 2 Asian people, man and woman, came into the United States with an unknown drug. And recently I saw that there was a news article saying that they have cracked the code behind the coronavirus. How do you crack a code to something that was man-made by someone else? Which comes back to what Joyce is saying as far as to discover drugs. Discovering a drug, no, you're not discovering a drug. You're vetting a drug to make sure it works and is viable to what you want it to do. Let's not forget, for many, many years, and I might be getting a little off track here, many years, there's always this thing about making a superhuman. A superhuman is considered to be a deadly weapon for any type of military, because this superhuman is not going to lose against others. That's why they call it a superhuman. There's many movies out there. There's many talks about it. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there about it. And a lot of you may not like it. A lot of you may going to disagree with me. That's fine. I don't mind. But show me, understand something. If you're discovering a drug that's already here, how are you discovering it? The simplest one is penicillin, right? You can grow penicillin in your own closet as long as you follow the directions on how to do it. And aren't they over 1 million people saying, oh, YouTube taught me, or TikTok taught me? Go get yourself a loaf of bread, stick it in your closet, watch all the mold grow in it. Next thing you know, a couple months later, you got yourself your own kind of penicillin. If you follow the directions on how to get it. I'm just saying. Don't be mad at me. Look up how penicillin was made. Because it was made, or found, or whichever way you want to call it. So be mad at me for telling you again. But this is what you got to try to understand. Going back to the part of the medical field and the Medicaid, Medicare, it's unfair that someone who's here for 20 years, that came across the border illegally, or matter of fact, even legally, because that's the slippery slope. That's why there's still so many illegal immigrants in the United States, is because a lot of them came over legally. Legally, they came over, they did the process, they did what they were supposed to do when they first came. Unfortunately, just like your car insurance, just like your own health insurance, just like your own lease, just like your own mortgage, you have a certain time frame where you have to redo it again. It's just the way it is. There's specifically on a car, especially cars, you have registration. Your registration has to be redone, remade, rechecked, depending where you are, either every 6 months or every year or every 2 years, depending on the car. So if you have to re-vet or vet once again to make sure it's up to par or standard, then why is it a problem to do the same thing with illegal immigrants? The immigrant is here illegally. They haven't been deported, but they're still considered illegal because their documents are not right. Their paperwork is not right. That means they don't have anything that's valid in the U.S. And we've seen on some of my, on many of my videos, on my reaction videos, where you don't have a license, you don't have registration, you don't have insurance. You get a ticket for no registration, you get a ticket for no insurance, but you get arrested for not having a license. In many of them. Okay, and some of them, they didn't even arrest the person for not having a license. Now, this comes back now to the more closer concept. We saw, or I don't know if anybody has seen this, there was a truck driver in Florida that took a semi truck, which is a 92-foot vehicle, okay? 92 feet. Took a 92-foot vehicle and made a U-turn on a 2-lane highway. 2 lanes going south, 2 lanes going north. Made a complete U-turn, killed 2 people, 3 people. No, killed 2 people instantly. 1 person is in critical condition. This was several months ago in Florida. They found that that person had no license, not a correct license, wasn't vetted, and was an illegal immigrant. So then everybody jumped on the bandwagon talking about, oh yeah, well, we need to vet all the CDL drivers. And President turned around and said, if you don't speak English and you're a CDL driver, you're getting locked up. They passed that law. Everybody jumped on that bandwagon. So my question would be this. If you were fast enough to jump on the bandwagon because the truck driver didn't speak English, why aren't you doing the same damn thing for the person who's not vetted, getting Medicaid, Medicare, medicine on your dime? Why are you not angry at that? Why are you not screaming and hollering at that? Oh, I know why. Because you feel that because you're in a country that speaks English, if you don't speak English, you shouldn't be here. Well, here's some food for thought. If the true, and listen to me carefully, if the true conqueror of the United States was to say to you, you don't speak the correct English, we're kicking you out. Some of you are going to turn around and say, oh, we speak English here because English is the proper language. Wrong. You're in a country that does not speak English. You're speaking English because that's what everybody chose to speak, but that's not the true language. And if you don't believe, there are several documents that show 2 verbiages. The crown, and the queen. That's 2. One place that many of you probably know that refers to those 2 verbiages, and it's called England. So in England, do they speak English? Ask yourself that question. What is it that they call it there? I'm not going to tell you, because I want you guys to come back and tell me that I'm crazy. I want you guys to come back and try to throw smoke at me and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. So I want you to figure out, or even look it up. You can try to Google it. Google's going to tell you something interesting. And if you don't understand me correctly, watch a 1930s, 1940s program based in England, so you can really understand what languages spoke in England before you turn around and say that, oh, the United States is just the United States, doesn't have no conqueror. No, it does have a conqueror, and it does have a primary language. Just like in every other country, there's always a language. The primary language has been chopped up into slang so that certain people could understand it. So it's done the same thing here, okay? So let's understand something. Everyone here in the United States that calls themselves an American is considered an illegal according to the crown, which is the Queen of England. So if you don't believe me, look it up. And I can tell you right now, I read a document just the other day on my segment where in the document it specifically states, due to the Queen inside the document, is why these laws were placed in the United States. If you don't believe me, go back to my other video and you'll catch it. Or if you're smart enough, you know where to find that information. So don't be mad at me. You can try to come with your smoke, but remember, you come with your smoke, I'm gonna shut you down because I've already read it and I know where it's at. So let's understand something. If a person is here in the United States illegally, like that truck driver was, now you saw how the truck driver now is getting a lot of talk about it, but it's not getting the same amount of talk. And I revert back to this the other day. I said this: 425 illegal immigrants in the United States building cars for people to drive. So think about this for a minute. We saw an illegally documented truck driver do a U-turn on a Florida state highway and kill 2 people instantly. Now, I'm telling you that there's 425 illegal immigrants working and building cars for people to drive in the United States. On top of that, you want the United States to continue paying for people to be here illegally. Now, for the most important part. Recently, I had read an article and saw an article where in the state of New York, there was a truck driver that was stopped. Random truck driver, nobody specific. They didn't even say where he was from. All they said was that the license had no name on it. And it was a CDL license in the state of New York, and a valid New York state, because it even had the new seal on it too. So it had no name on the driver's license for commercial driving. All it said was the height, the weight, the colors of the eyes, and it said limited commercial driving. Limited, which most likely means they're not able to drive between certain hours a day. But it had no name on it. How did the state of New York allow a person to get a driver's license without being vetted? Some of you have stood at a DMV in your state, in your town, in your city. You guys probably stood there anywhere between 2 hours to maybe 6 hours to get a license. Between getting tested, between getting eye checked, between asking a ton of questions. And if you had a license from another state, how they had to do everything all over again because they wanted to make sure that you knew what was going on. So ask yourself this question: how is it possible that in the state of New York, there was a person that was driving a semi-truck, which is an 18-wheeler, which is 92 feet of pure carnage, driving? They didn't know who this person was in the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. They had a photo of him, but they had no name. So Santa Claus was driving an 18-wheeler down the highway way longer, or rather way before Christmas time. So ask yourself this question: why was it done? Again, they never said where this person was from. They didn't say whether they were Latino, Hispanic, Mexicans, El Salvador, Russian. They didn't say none of that. They just said a person. So you have the audacity to be mad at President Trump for tightening the noose, as I call it, around the neck of the Democrats and every other person who's screaming unjust actions by the president. And y'all letting certain people do all this nonsense. Little niece Queen, congratulations once again. Good to see you. Thank you for stopping in. As I said in my comment, it was a blessing to see you hunting them crabs down in that backyard of yours. It was pretty nice. Hopefully you did have fun, and hopefully everybody's well. I want to make sure I would like to make sure everybody's home safely. Appreciate you stopping in. It was very, very much of a delight to see you up there, and congratulations on hitting so many subscribers so quickly that now you can do it from your phone. As you said, you can be driving around on your phone. And that's definitely the way to go. Congratulations again. Big old shout out to you. And like I said, I'll support you as much as I can, when I can. And that's my word. So everybody who's screaming and hollering about President Trump not being right, President Trump not doing due process, all this other stuff, you guys still fail to understand something. The president still has people he has to answer to. And there's still people who tell him what to do. And it's most likely the same people that you voted for when you was in the city under being a mayor, a councilman, and now they're senators, and now they're congressmen. So somehow, some way, you knew who these people were. And you choose right now to continue allowing them to do what they want to do, even though you know it's wrong. But you're going to scream and holler and say, no, it's the big man's fault. Are you saying, oh, matter of fact, you know what? I remember many years ago, I heard a lot of people saying, oh, the white man's always keeping me down. The white man's always doing this. The white man's doing all that. But you're robbing, stealing, killing your same kinfolk. People in your neighborhood you robbing from. People you killing in your neighborhood. So how is it the white man's fault? Because you're doing, oh, because the white man didn't give you a job. Oh, because you chose not to have an education. Oh, you chose to steal from people instead of doing the right thing. That was the talk many, many years ago. So now we're turning around and saying, no, it's the orange man's fault, right? Because a lot of people say President Trump's orange. Well, guess what? I'll take that tangerine over anybody else right about now. Because that tangerine is actually making this country much more better than what you thought. Because what a lot of you are going to do now, once January rolls around, y'all know that y'all going to be running to your tax preparer trying to get your money back. And many of you are going to be more surprised than ever when you see a chunk of money coming right back to you. Y'all going to be running around here like it's raining money. Like some of you at a party that you've never been invited to, and all of a sudden everybody's giving you money. That's what you guys are going to do. And that's going to be a lot of you doing that. And you are the same ones that are going to be saying, oh, Trump was this, Trump was that, the orange man this, orange man that was wrong. But you're going to take the money he's going to make sure it provides to you, right? Because you're going to turn around and appreciate that. So if you want to be a hypocrite, that's fine. Be a hypocrite all you want. Being a hypocrite is not a crime. Being a hypocrite in my eyes is a crime, especially if I could turn around and tell you that you're wrong. Because I'm not going to appreciate you trying to bash someone or anyone that's trying to do things better when you know you're taking advantage of the person or the situation. So let's understand something. Illegal immigrants can be here for 90 days on a work visa or a tourist visa. And because life takes a hold of them and they forget that they got to go get vetted, that's their own fault. Because even when you okay, watch this. Many of you, when you apply for new insurance on your car, you get a series of questions. And one of the questions, or rather two of the questions I wanted to pick on is, have you had any accidents in the past 5 years? What does 5 years ago have to do with right now? It's right now you need your insurance on your car. It's right now that you need to find another insurance company because your insurance company that you presently have is charging you too much money. So what does 5 years ago have to do with right now? Have you ever asked any insurance broker that reason? What does 5 years ago have to do with now? So what you did 5 years ago, you're still being held accountable for now. That's gonna dictate what your rate's gonna be based on what you did. The other question is this one, and this is the funny one. How long have you been with your present insurance company? Well, clearly, if you're looking for a new one, it's too long, because either they're not treating you right. Bottom line. So if they have the right to ask you that before they give you an insurance policy, why is it wrong for the president or the president administration to turn around and say, we want to know where you was 5 years ago, how you came in the country 5 years ago, and what have you been doing to now? What's wrong with that? But you guys want to complain and you guys want to scream and holler. Okay. I said this before as well. You go to the doctor's office. Doctor says you have any questions. You run out of there and you start complaining to the wrong people. On my reaction videos, you guys seen this time and time and time and time and time again. People get in trouble. People get in trouble, and the first thing they do is call their best friend, their mamas, their brothers, their sisters, somebody else other than the person they're supposed to call. And we've heard it graciously. I'm going to call him out. Othenio Penn, great processor server, and he processes evictions. And he usually tells them, get your gold, get your jewelry, get your cell phone chargers, get your money, because those are most, and your IDs, because those are the things you don't want to go looking for later on. We've seen it time and time again. These people that he just said that to, they sit down and they stop making believe he didn't say it. They walk around the house doing everything else than what he said to do, and then they get pissed off when he takes their shit out, moves their shit, throws their shit. They get pissed off. Then you got to hear him turn around and say, but I told you what you had to do. So when you relate those, and many of you sat back and laughed, and many of you sat back and said, oh, but I was wrong. But ask yourself this question. Is it right that the insurance company has to ask you what you did 5 years ago to dictate how much you're supposed to pay in your insurance policy? Hell, you could have had a clean record since you've been driving. Why did they need to know what happened 5 years ago? Just to dictate what your rate is going to be on your automobile. Ask yourself these questions. And it's the President Trump's administration that's doing the same thing with all these illegal immigrants that are in the United States presently. Because they're here, A, undocumented, and most importantly, unvetted. That means they have not figured out why they are here. Now, as I said a moment ago, I watched a program some time ago called Border Crossings, where it dealt with customs enforcement, where they actually sat there and told people, here's a piece of paper, sign it, come back to court. They don't come back to court because life takes a hold. Everybody knows life takes a hold on you. Life takes a hold on you. You forget about all the things you got to do. That's the way life is. That's why it's called life. You forget to pay your bills. You forget to do certain things. Things that you want to do can't be done. So what do? You just keep going forward. You keep moving forward. Yet, if you're here illegally, undocumented, that should be the first thing you do. Many of us have come across people who don't have car insurance, and you get into an accident. And what's the first thing you do? You start pissing the storm. You say, this fluffing son of my bitch done hit my car. Then you find out they have no insurance. Now your insurance rate goes up, even though it wasn't your accident. Even though you were not the one that caused the accident, your insurance rate goes up. But because the other person chose not to drive with insurance, you get penalized. Is that right? Many of you say, hell no, that ain't right. So then ask yourself this question. Is it right that there's people in the United States gaining or earning money that should be put in your pocket to provide for yourself and or your family, and is being given to someone else that is doing everything the opposite? Apparently, if you can't answer that question rightfully, then there's no reason for you to be listening, because you're going to continue that. So what I found out is this. I found out that people would always complain, but never want to find a solution. And or when given the solution, they still choose not to go about with it, because it's easier to stay quiet than to actually complain about it the right way. And that's what I call being stupid. Because at the end of the day, if you're not talking up for what's rightfully yours, then what sense does it make for you to even complain about anything? A lot of people don't want to stir up the pot because they're afraid to stir up the pot. They're afraid to cause issues. But in actuality, if you don't cause issues, you never get hurt. And if you don't get hurt, your concerns get thrown off to the next person. And the next person cannot dictate what's going on with you precisely the way you need it to. Because as we know, many of us that grew up without cell phones, you had to use this thing on the walls called a phone. Had this big rotary thing on it that when you had to hang up the phone, you had to push a little button and then they hung up the phone, or you had to put somebody on hold. You had to put the handset down and walk away. That was putting somebody on hold. So when you're able to do that, you got to ask yourself this question. Why now you don't want to stir up the pot? Because people are not listening. People don't care. People are not able to give you the information the way you was, because like I said, back way when it was called talking to someone, that someone talked to someone else, and the information was already the opposite by the time it got to the third person. By the time it got to the person that it's intended to, the whole story is opposite of what it's supposed to be. But yet, now, many of you want to sit back and say, I believe in the person that I voted for. And still, nothing's gone better. But that's on y'all. And y'all can continue doing that lifestyle. Y'all can continue doing that. That's okay. As I say, it will come to an end. And the reason why it's going to come to an end is because people like myself that know exactly what to say, how to say, what questions to ask, and to fight and argue for certain things are the ones that's going to wind up being much more better for all you fools out there that don't know what the hell you're doing. Look, y'all can be mad at me as much as you want. Y'all can be upset at me. And honestly, I don't give 2 flat cents. Why? Because 2 pennies to me doesn't make a difference when I'm actually going to gain a whole big old nickel because of the most stupid people out there. Because stupid people eventually are going to get put into a corner. And when them stupid people get put into a corner, I'm going to be much more happier because all of you come together is going to be a nice big old pot of stupidness. And the government is going to turn around and put you all in one little place to let y'all all be by yourselves. And the reason why I say that is because that's what's going to happen. Because eventually the government is going to get tired of all you people abusing the system, taking things from the system, taking from the taxpayers, taking from people who work 50, 60, 70 hours a week just to provide their families, and or working pissed off hours, meaning instead of you sitting at home with your loved ones, you got to be at work because you need to make that money. It ain't going to be right. Many, many years ago, I remember working, one of the main things they said was that if you work a specific time of night, you get what's called night differential. Over the course of years, night differential, when I knew about night differential started at 6 p.m. So most of you that are working get night differential now for the past, I'm going to say maybe for the past decade, night differential only kicked in at 11 p.m. Night differential is when it's actually night outside, when the sun is down. The sun is down, they call it night for a reason. So the moment the sun went down, you should be getting night differential. But many of you didn't want to scream and holler about it the right way. So, hey, that's on y'all. So to wrap this up, it's very simplified. Closing of the government, and I really want the government to be shut down for a whole month. A whole month. And I would like to see that month that's closed down, everybody who's relying on the government for certain things don't get nothing. Yeah, I say it like that because y'all deserve that, because y'all didn't ask the right questions. Y'all didn't say the right things. Y'all didn't go to the right people. Screaming at the TV is not making you heard. Calling a congressman is not getting you heard. Screaming to a lawyer is not going to get you heard. You got to start at your local offices. Those people that you sat down with, those people that walked up to your house, knocked on your door, asked you for money, asked you to campaign for them. Those are the people you need to be screaming at. And those are the people you need to record when talking to them. And let them know they're being recorded. So this way, when they go against your word that you asked them about and or the promises they gave you, like that mayor in Chicago did, you want to have the proof to do it. This way they can be more embarrassed than anything. And then again, you got to be careful on how many people voted for that person. So in a long nutshell, I'm going to put it like this. On the FATATCHULA show, we're going to talk about many, many things. We're going to talk mainly about reaction videos. I'm going to do reaction videos till I'm blue in the face because I love making people laugh. And regardless if you're a subscriber or not, it's okay. I don't mind. You can like my content. You can share my content. You don't even have to even share it. You don't even have to like it. Yet, by you coming in and watching it, that tells me that I'm entertaining you. So let's understand something. Entertainment comes in twofold. Entertainment is also empowering, giving knowledge. And that's what I'm here to do as well. Because on my reaction videos, I tell you guys what to do when you get stopped by a police officer. I recently just watched another video where the girl was fumbling through all her paperwork, didn't have her registration, didn't have an insurance card, and the cop got pissed off and dragged her out anyway because he got pissed off. Could have avoided that if everything was on one piece of paper. Like I explained to many of you, put your license, registration, insurance card on one piece of paper. And of course, cop pulls you over, says, why you pulled me over? The answer to that is because I probably got a warrant. Even if it ain't true. Because 9 out of 10, he already knows because he already ran your plate, so he already knows what's going on. And he's going to turn around and tell you. So if you're waiting for an answer from him of why he pulled you over, give him an answer. Probably because I have a warrant. Then he could turn around, or she could turn around and say, no, you ain't got a warrant, but your tax is expired, your license is suspended. Now you don't have to ask me over because now you're giving him an answer or her an answer. See how that works? See how that works? So you're already diffusing the situation. You're not being a smart ass. It's a legitimate answer or a legitimate question. No, it works, right? So with that being said, I talk about the big beautiful bill today, and the main focus was illegal immigrants getting the health coverage, which should not be happening, and of course how CDL drivers are required to speak English, and how New York State has allowed some drivers to have no vetting whatsoever drive a 92-foot carnage of a style of vehicle. Because if anyone ever seen a tractor trailer semi truck smash into another vehicle, YouTube it, watch the videos on how deadly and destructive a dang on truck full with freight with over 30,000 tons of weight crashing into a car. Check out those videos and understand why not having the knowledge behind being a commercial driver is so crucial, and why so many commercial drivers fight to make sure they keep their commercial driver licenses clean. And even with them, it's unfair for them to fight tooth and nail to keep it clean when they're handing them out like if it's freaking popcorn at a movie theater. So please understand something, everybody. On the FATATCHULA show, which is what you're watching, on the FATATCHULA show, we cover a lot of things. Okay, our main focus, yes, is to make people laugh. Our secondary focus is to educate the people, empower people. And third and foremost is to always let people know that you can never say no one told you. Because here on the FATATCHULA show, we're going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. And if I tell you and you turn around and say no one told you, you lied because you never came through. So with that being said, like, follow, subscribe, and share. And of course, I heard somebody the other day turn around and say, oh, you shouldn't use the word like. That's not true. Don't even fall for that trick. It's all about the algorithm. It's what your niche is. It's what your content is. It's what is you are saying. Same way they turned around and said they don't want to hear the word wiggers. Look, same way they turned around and said he shouldn't be cussing. There's a person that we follow each other, another content creator, that every third word out of his mouth is a cuss. And I mean the full-blown word. And he's still being monetized. And he's still growing content. And he's still growing subscribers. They're not shutting him down. Because why? Because he's creating something that they need, which is viewers. They want that. So when you turn around and say, don't say this, don't say that, don't say, listen, at the end of the day, it's a suggestion. That's all it is. It's a suggestion. You don't have to follow it. Just take it as a suggestion and watch how everybody else does it. Because at the end of the day, YouTube is just like another business. As long as they get paid for it, as long as they monetize off for it, they're going to let you run whatever you run with, as long as you providing them with a service that they can get paid for. Real simple, like, okay? So with that being said, I will see everybody later. You know, I don't like saying goodbye to anybody, and never tell any of your loved ones bye. Always tell them to see you later, because at the end of the day, you can walk out the door, you can step into your car, you can drive out of your car from the parking spot, and it could be the last moment that you had. So with that being said, make sure you tell everybody you love them and tell them you. So with that being said, I will see you all later, and most likely tomorrow, Sunday, 12 noon on the Fracas Show. For those that are actually part of that and watching that, I will see you then. So with that being said, later, everybody. I'll catch you when I catch you. And again, if you feel the need to combat what I'm saying or debate what I'm saying, feel free to hit me up. Feel free to send me your information. Feel free to really try to come at me with no receipts. I'll catch you later.